and welcome to the Motorsport Coaching Podcast, sponsored by Motivate Training and Management. This is a podcast where we talk to drivers and industry experts to help you maximize your performances on and off the track. Let's get started with today's show. Hello, crew, and welcome to episode 125 of the Motorsport Coaching Podcast. I am your host, Belinda Risley, and this week I'm going to be talking to you guys about the importance of having a newsletter. Yes, a newsletter. For those who worked with me for a long time or been following me know that I'm very passionate about motorsport being a business. One of the most important things about having a newsletter is the fact that you actually own that IP. So it's something that is yours, unlike social media, unfortunately. And as we had that occurrence about last year or the year before when Facebook and Instagram crashed, everyone's life went crazy and because we didn't own those pages, and we still don't own those pages. So although it is fantastic to grow your fan base on social media, newsletter is a type of social media marketing, and it is, again, something that you actually own going forward. And it's also a fantastic tool to have for sponsors. The reason being, again, is because this is basically a warm audience, and that data around that demographic and really basically all the analytic kind of things, you can get more information from a CRM, so a newsletter content provider, than what you can from social media. So newsletters are an amazing way to communicate with your customers or your subscribers or your fans, whatever you want to call them, but it's a really personal way. It's a means to deliver your right message at the right time and in an attempt to engage as well. So again, you own that, so run with it. It's your branding, it's your voice. What you actually put in within the newsletter is completely up to you. It doesn't have to be written. It could be a vlog. It could be a podcast. Basically, it's just something, it's just a means of communication, of engaging with your fans on a personal basis, as opposed to social media where it's kind of just one post generically. Or the other good thing about having a newsletter is that, unlike social media, is that you're actually targeting a warm audience. We know, that there's a lot of social media platforms at the moment. So if you're posting constantly on TikTok, well, you're missing out on fans that are predominantly in Facebook or Instagram Reels or Instagram posts or Snapchat. So you're cutting down your reach to that specific market. If you're having a newsletter, these people are really interested in following you on your journey. And so therefore it's a lot easier to communicate with them, to sell them basically items going forward, to get them engaged on your journey going forward, and ideally even possibly to get them on board to be a sponsor going forward. So it's also a better platform to promote your sponsors for like when they have a sale or a new product launch, that you can send these campaigns out directly to your database. It's easy to engage with, as I said, through merchandise or even going forward. In a few weeks' time on the podcast, we're going to have a discussion around starting a membership. So how to grow your fan base by starting a membership, which is also going to hopefully get you some money in for sponsors in 2023. You can also set up a tab within Facebook where they can actually go onto your Facebook page, and there's a facility that they connect up to your CRM program where people can actually go into Facebook and sign up to receive your newsletter. Again, with the newsletter, you don't want to actually call it a newsletter. So this is where your branding comes into it, so your voice. And so you want to have something unique other than, the Motivate newsletter. So I call mine the Motivate Manual. It's not too creative, I guess, but I needed something at the time. But of course, using your brand and what you want to be known for, what kind of direction you're wanting to take your brand, is how and why you would name your newsletter going forward. And again, as I keep saying, that motorsport is a business, and so we're needing to continue to list build those fans that are going to follow our journey, off social media. We know that our fans love seeing our social media posts, but this is a great way to get a little bit up more close and personal with them. Excuse me. So as we said, fans love to see their favorite athletes perform on the track, and many of these athletes have legions of fans that follow their every move on social media. So it's not unusual for athletes to have thousands of fans or hundreds of fans that follow them on social media. But if you want to build your own personal brand, you need to keep in contact with those fans. And yes, you can keep doing social media content creation, but again, it's not always going to hit every one of those fans. And also that content creation isn't going to be applicable for each of those social media platforms. So as previously mentioned, that when you're getting started with motorsports or you're trying to build your brand, it's really important that you just try and identify one or two social media platforms that you want to try and promote. You can go across all the platforms, but of course, if you're not concentrating on one or two, those other platforms is just going to be platforms to raise your brand awareness. Who does MailChimp? Who does newsletters? There are a lot of free resources out there that you can use, and all of this information and the links that I've been mentioning will be in today's show notes. So all you need to do after today is go to your preferred platform and hit onto the show notes, which will take you over to motivatetraining.com.au/podcasts, and you will see today's episode with the show notes with all the links, and as well as a guideline that you can download as well. So one of the services that Motivate does offer is setting up your newsletter, and we do use MailChimp, but there are other service providers like ActiveCampaign, Kajabi. Some of them are free, some of them are paid. Again, most of them are free up to a certain amount of subscribers. So with MailChimp, it's a free platform that you can utilize up until you get to 500 subscribers. So if you're getting 500 subscribers on your database, that is awesome. That's a fantastic stat that sponsors would love to know, and it's fantastic for you to promote your services, merchandise, your sponsors' products and services going forward as well. So within MailChimp, I'm just going to go through a few services they actually also offer other than just being a CRM. So obviously they do have email marketing, and they also do automations, and they've got sign-up forms that you can embed into your social media platforms for people, again, to sign up to that newsletter directly. They do assist you with social media ads. They've got online stores, but the great thing that I love about MailChimp is that they do have basic templates available. So if creative design or if knowing where to start is quite daunting for you at this point of time, don't worry. All of that information is available over at MailChimp.com. And of course, they do have an analytics session where you can break down all your data. So it's important to know things like when are people joining, when you send out the newsletter, how many people are opening, what time is the best time to send that newsletter, when you're going to get most engagement from your fans, to see what your message is all about. So what do you include within a newsletter? This is a fantastic opportunity to welcome any new fans, team, crew members. Again, these are your peeps. You decide what you want to call your fans. You could simply just call them fans. I have a habit, as you know, I call you guys crew members, and I also call them team members depending on what platform I'm actually on. But again, find something that's going to resonate with your brand and run with it. Call them those things. If not, fans are great. This is an opportunity to showcase any of the latest news. So things like your race results, if you've obtained any injuries or you're coming back from an injury or a bad accident, showcasing that recovery process. If you've got any new sponsors that have come on board since the last time you've done a newsletter, have you lost any sponsors during the last month or so, and you want to say your last thank you, and maybe even go into details as to why the sponsorship is ending, or not. But of course, it is a good avenue to promote those sponsors. And also personal details. Sorry about that, guys. I do have some notes that I'm reading, obviously. And personal information. So obviously personal information that you're willing to share. So like, did you get a new cat? Did you welcome a new baby within your family? Did you start a new job? Any of that personal information. Again, people are investing in you, so they want to know what's happening outside of the racetrack as well. So include that personal information within that news strategy. as mentioned, loads of opportunity to promote promotions. So for both yourself, so that could include things like your merchandise. You might be running a competition. You might be giving away tickets to the next race meeting. You might have corporate hospitality tickets that you can give away. You might be hosting a networking event that you can be, again, providing tickets. But it's also promotions for your sponsors as well. So newsletters are pivotal in driving these kind of type campaigns. So the newsletter, so your sponsors could be having a promotion coming up, like a Black Friday sale or a Christmas sale. It could be just a Father's Day sale. Basically anything that you can help promote your sponsors and to get them sales is going to be ideal in this part of the newsletter. The next thing to include in newsletter is, of course, the events. All right. So your upcoming race dates, whether you put on the whole year of your racing calendar in the first one, and you have that, or you change it up each month, is completely up to you. You could also include some sponsors meet and greet. So if you're doing a networking night, or if you're doing something with your sponsors, like if your sponsor's got an opening launch of a new shop and they've asked you to bring down the vehicle, you might want to promote that. You might want to promote that under your event section as well. But again, it's your newsletter. You can put whatever you like into that section. I'm just giving you some ideas of what could go in there. You may also want to have another section purely just around sponsors. So you may do a sponsor spotlight session where each month you focus on one of your new sponsors, and you can give a little bit blurb. You can do a video with them. You can get a written testimonial. You can obviously put their link to their social handles, a link to their website. You could run a special with a discount code that could give you an affiliate link that you can financially get a rebate for every sales that is made from that link. So there's loads of things that you could do under that sponsors banner as well. You could do a giveaway section. Again, this is a section for yourself or for your sponsors to provide things like tickets to the events, merchandise, fun things to kind of get more engagement. Like, example, share this newsletter with your friend and go into the draw to win a merchandise pack, or it could be corporate hospitality tickets at the next event. So again, there's lots of opportunities there to use a giveaway to get some engagement from your fans as well. And also you might even want to have fans in the spotlight as well. So if you're really up close and personal with your fans, you might want to showcase one of them each month. So I can do like a member of the month. We've got our toolkit. I've got an ambassador. So we're doing an ambassador of the month and a bit of an insight into them and their race team, their race history. But there's loads of things that you can include within the newsletter. You want to include things with text, photos, and a call to action. So where do you want your fans to go to? So ideally, if you're having a giveaway, if you've got a website, you're going to refer them to that website. If you don't have a website, that's okay. There are services called About Me, which can just give you a single page. Next week on the Motorsport Coaching Podcast, we are going to be talking about websites. We've got a website professional coming and going to go in more details about what to include in a website. But if that financially isn't where you're at the moment, you're just getting started, that's okay. But making sure that there are some links within that newsletter for your fans to go definitely to your sponsor sites at least. Including GIFs, they are fun. Everyone loves to look at a funny GIF these days. And of course, you only need to use them if it is part of your brand. So if your brand is fun and engaging, then GIFs are good. But if it's more serious and more business-like, then probably not. Before you send out the newsletter, just ensure that you do preview it on both the desktop and mobile views, just to ensure that the layout is the same. Sometimes when it goes to a smaller layout into a mobile layout, you might lose certain content, so you might need to play around with it. But make sure you do that before you press that send button. And of course, within the footer, which is the bottom of the newsletter, that should always have your social media handles. So you're at @motivate.t, @motivate_t, whatever it is. It should, if you do have a website, have that link to your website or have a link to your mobile number wherever someone can get in contact with you, and if required to have the privacy requirements. But again, making sure that there's somewhere easy that people can get in contact with you should maybe they be wanting to discuss possible sponsorship opportunity. Excuse me. And of course, you wanted to finish off the newsletter. Again, these are just some ideas. You can add whatever you want. And of course, a lot of those free CRMs do have some templates that you can follow. You can just plug in and design away within your brand and add whatever content. These are just some ideas. But with the signature at the end, I always do encourage you guys to have an image of yourself without your helmet on so people can actually see you, because again, if they haven't seen you for a long period of time, they may forget who you are. You might have crossed paths at the racetrack and they signed up there and they forgot who you are, or they only met you, or they only followed you on TV. So do have that image without your helmet on. All right, so how often should you send out a newsletter? But again, it's completely up to you. There's no wrong or right way. I would say minimal, at least once a month. That's fine. If you love doing it, of course, it is time consuming. So if you don't have the time or the resources, then once a month. But if you do love it and this is what you're up to and this is the next step in your career and you're really looking to take your career or making it into a business and into a full-time career, then, maybe do it weekly. But again, it's completely up to you. There's nothing wrong or right. But things you do want to look into, as previously mentioned, is to analyze that data. So what time did people open it? How many people actually viewed it? Did it actually get delivered to everybody on that list? How many people actually clicked onto those links? And, over a few months, test all of those different elements. So test the timing of when you actually send that newsletter. Do you get a better engagement if you send it on a Monday night at 7 p.m. as opposed to a Friday at 12 o'clock? But if you send it out at Friday at 12 o'clock and you seem to have more than 30% open it, well, then that's fantastic. So you want to ideally have somewhere around about 30% open rate with a newsletter when you're starting out. Other things to include within the newsletter is that subject line. So really the subject line is, apart from the content of the actual email, if your subject line isn't engaging and really eye-catching, I guess we know that a lot of people get emails every day and they probably skim through to what they're going to open. So your subject line is really, really important. It is really a turning point for a successful newsletter. And then a good newsletter subject line, it should be focused on a clear message and statement. Having the latest updates isn't really good enough. So previously, I probably would have done myself out for it, having Motivate training update a few years ago, but now I do try and have a subject line. And again, when I said about doing that beta testing, you can also test those subject lines. So for example, you may send it out up Friday at 12 o'clock with one subject line, and you might see that there's a low opening rate. Well, you might go again and change that subject line and then resend it on a Monday at 4 o'clock and test to see what subject line worked best for you. So think of the subject line as your crucial statement that you want your subscribers to really want to engage and to go, yeah, I want to read what's inside of that. So my one for this week was, do you need more race fans? Because we have an upcoming social media workshop. All right, so hopefully people are going to read that and go, yes, and then they're going to click in and read the content that we have included in that body. So the subject line, it needs to be enticing, clear, and should state exactly what the newsletter is about. So yes, my upcoming newsletter is all about growing your social media fans because we do have an upcoming masterclass about that. The subject line shouldn't be any longer than 6 to 10 words. So you do want to kind of keep it, as I said, clear and sharp and concise, but you also want to get that point across. There are some tools that you can utilize to help picking the best subject lines, and I'll add those into the show notes. So again, just race over to motivatetraining.com.au/podcast and look for today's shows, and those tools for the subject lines will be included in the show notes. What to avoid? There are certain words that you need to stay clear of because a lot of again, CRM still have algorithms as well. The word newsletter should never be used itself. So if you can't get creative with a name, certainly don't call it Bob Smith newsletter. All right. You might want to call it definitely not Bob Smith update either, but it could be Bob Smith racing results. Again, I'll have those links, but of course, if you do need any ideas, that is a great social media piece that you can actually put onto your platforms. Hey guys, I'm thinking of doing a newsletter. I want a name. This is a competition. I've got a merchandise pack to give away. I want to know what is the name for that newsletter. Pop it in the comments below or DM us or write your answer below. So there's a social media piece that you can do straight away to help you come up with that newsletter idea. It's also recommended to avoid spam names like free, and certainly don't put the subject line with the capital letters on, okay? So you need to have that mix of capital and small letters in that subject line. And of course, if it's in your brand, use emojis. So I love an emoji. So I definitely do use emojis, but of course it's depending if it's aligned with your brand. If it's not aligned with your brand, then don't use emojis, but you certainly can use the emojis within their subject lines as well. So what should the appearance of the newsletter look like? Well, again, that's completely up to you. As said, it doesn't need to be written. It can be a video blog. It can be a podcast that's put into that newsletter. But basically, it's that point of communication with those fans that love you. You need to obviously brand it accordingly. I'm doing a video and I'm just waving my hand around. So don't worry if you're watching the video or get it. But if you're listening to this podcast, obviously you won't. But brand it to you. So obviously Motivate colors are red, black, and white. So our newsletter is red, black, and white with all the colors of the services that we offer. That's why it's another important reason to develop your brand. If you haven't already developed a brand, again, I'll put some tools into today's show notes that can work with you, will help you identify what color scheme to use. Again, it can help you identify a logo. If you're wanting to play around with your own logo designs, again, there's a free resource called canva.com, canva.com. I'll put that link in the show notes that you can certainly go there. You can even play around with those color schemes, and you can even make yourself a logo. There's some templates in there. But again, if you don't have a brand, this is a perfect opportunity to start working on that to get started. Well, guys, that was all I have. I was just going to do a quick one. It turned out to be 20 minutes, but that's okay. I hope it's some coaching points to get you started about developing your newsletter. Of course, at any time, if you need any assistance, please do get in contact with me at win@motivatetraining.com.au. As mentioned, Motivate does offer the service of setting up these newsletters for you and actually doing your monthly newsletter. So if you are quite time poor and resource poor, we can assist doing that. Our monthly plan also includes doing social media content planning. I'm losing my voice this week, and also a monthly coaching call and 12-month access over onto our membership site called the Toolkit. So I'll put the links to that service if you're interested over in today's show notes. But of course, they are available over at motivatetraining.com.au/management services. As mentioned, we do have an upcoming Grow Your Social Media Masterclass this Wednesday, the 31st of August at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. I've got Ed Smith coming from the Social Sandwich. We're going to be talking about the latest trends with social media marketing and how we can use analytics for your data, for your marketing and for sponsorship, but also to answer any questions that you have about increasing your fan base over on your preferred social media platform. So if you're interested in joining that webinar, it's motivatetraining.com.au/grow-your-fans-MC. So grow your fans MC. But of course, you can find it over on our website and in today's show notes. The replay from our last episode, 10 Things You Can Do Now to Get Sponsorship, is still up and still available. So there is that replay as well as the workbook. So if you haven't already, I'll put that link in the show notes. Don't worry, guys, I'm getting sick of saying it, so I'm sure you're getting sick of hearing it. But it is all there. As well as today, there will be all of this information into a workbook and with how to set up your Mailchimp account from scratch for that free account. So please head over and download that PDF and get those newsletters up, and we'll be happy to be one of your first subscribers and offer you some feedback as you go along in the next couple of months. Have a fantastic week, stay safe, and hope you can join us next week when we talk about what to include in a website. Well, thanks everyone for listening to this week's show. I really hope you enjoyed that one as much as I did. Now, remember, all the show notes with the links and the specials mentioned in today's show are available over at motivatetraining.com.au. If you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it if you could head to iTunes or Stitcher, type in Motorsport Coaching, subscribe, and leave us a review. Each week, I'll read them out and you'll go into monthly draw to win a fantastic prize. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at motivatetraining.com.au or head over to our Facebook page at Motivate to Tea. Until next time, take care.